Yat shik edo shidana, shel trahas Saint-Lo, ado shidayon no Linigido. To all my relatives across the Navajo Nation once more, to all of you good-hearted relatives of mine across the Navajo Nation, Shady bet ahnidona en schlitkatnes zahni bashichin kintlichini dashiche ashihe dashinelle. However way that we're related through my four clans, I greet you with good thoughts, good feelings again here today. Across our Navajo Nation, every day we see a part of our communities that I think that we just refuse to acknowledge. What I mean by that is that when you drive up to a gas station, and over there in the corner of the gas station over there are usually maybe 3 or 4 individual Navajos that are huddled up. One is usually passed out. The others are huddled up. Maybe they're shaking. And we just call them aglanis. Glanis. And they're just there. We walk past them. We go about our business. And we leave. Or, as we drive through our communities, there's 1 or 2 that are staggering all over the place. And then there are stories about someone that came home intoxicated or under the influence of methamphetamines or something. And because of that, there's domestic violence. There's spousal abuse, children abuse. And most recently, there are stories about methamphetamine overdose individuals who might have given birth and died from that all by herself. And the baby died as well. Different heart-wrenching stories like that. Or somebody's relative was walking on the road and got run over in the middle of the night or the day. Or somebody's home got broken into because somebody was trying to steal some valuable things so that they could sell it to buy methamphetamines. Or, true to the fact, there are prostitution that is going on at some of the major towns and communities that have a lot of truck drivers and travelers that come through there. So these are all the things that are on the Navajo Nation today. Just like as if we're living in metropolitan Phoenix or Los Angeles or what have you. And because of some of these drugs, we have gangs. We have gangs that are drug pushing, and we have gangs that are harassing and are being violent. So all of these things that are there, we don't really talk about it. Maybe we don't know how to talk about it. Maybe we just don't want to talk about it. But it's there, my relatives. And so the Justin Jones for Navajo Nation president, we have thought long and hard about this. Not only because of the campaign, but it's my job. I represent abused women. I represent abused fathers and men. I represent assaulted children. I represent individuals that have been burglarized. I represent a whole slew of people that are dealing with all of this in one form or another. That's how I know. I hear these heart-wrenching stories on a daily basis here in our office. So the Justin Jones for Navajo Nation President campaign have come up with certain ideas, and we deem it to be solutions. I think the campaign theme that we have today, protecting our sacred sovereignty and preserving our sacred sovereignty, is right along the lines of what we believe will help begin to have the ball rolling, the gears turning. First of all, we have to change our mindset. These people aren't just Atlanis. These people aren't just addicts. They're our relatives. If you ask them their clans, if they tell you 100% of the time, you're going to be related to them somehow. So we need to begin to think about our relatives who are going through a lot. And they just weren't born one day and turned out to be like that. There are reasons and purposes of why they're going through this hard time in their life. But we also have to also say and think that there is hope, because everyone's a relative, and because these are our own Navajo people. And so we need to begin to change the mindset. It really pains me to see a lot of times when people post about pictures of intoxicated Navajos, and people laugh at it as if it's something to laugh at. But our grandmas and our grandpas say, no matter where a person comes from, no matter what condition they are as Navajos, as Dene, especially those that are suffering from some type of a problem, some person that is sick, you don't laugh at them. You don't make fun of them. So the whole mindset that we have on this matter, we need to begin to educate one another to say, don't do that. That's number one. Number two is the fact that a lot of times we say, let's hire more cops. Let's hire more police officers. It's not going to make that big of an impact, even though we may hire 100-200 more officers. Sure, they're going to be visible on the street. But here's the deal. The intoxicated person will be intoxicated. They're going to get arrested maybe for public intoxication. They're going to get tossed into jail. And then they will be arraigned and they'll probably say, I'm guilty. Maybe they'll be penalized for $25 or maybe time served 1 day in jail. They're going to be let out again and they're going to go back to that bottle again or to that grams of methamphetamines. And then they're going to be intoxicated again and they're going to be tossed in again. It's a revolving door, relatives. We need to stop that revolving door process. So the way that we plan to stop that revolving door process are severalfold. Number one, we have to incorporate and we have to begin to work together cooperatively with all of the agencies and entities that are involved in this. So police officers are just one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the corrections department. There's a reason why it's called corrections, relatives. When a person is sentenced to the Department of Corrections, the Department of Corrections' responsibility should be to rehabilitate, to correct the person. Not just for the person to sit in there, eat 3 square meals in a cot and look at comics and maybe even watch movies or whatever. That's not what it was about. What it is about is that they are there to rehabilitate. They are there to be corrected. So our corrections department meets a revamping. The philosophy and the mission and the purpose of the corrections department needs to be re-examined to go upon the premise that they are there to be a rehabilitation and corrective action department of individuals that are sentenced over there. So they need to be part of the equation. The other entity that needs to be part of the equation is the probation as well. We have an extensive Navajo Nation probation services that are there. But they need to be assisted as well. They need to be assisted with certain programs that they are allowed to do as well. Sometimes it's the government that prohibits some of these things themselves. So we need to begin to infuse the net culture, the net teachings, the net philosophy, the net rehabilitative techniques and methods, the net counseling techniques and methods. Remember now, relatives, For the longest time now, I would say even from the day we left Fort Sumter, we have been going on these Western methodologies, Western philosophies, and all of this. But they're not Navajo. It has nothing to do with our culture. It has nothing to do with our ways of living over here. So we have to go back today to what has worked for us all these many generations. We have to go back to our methods. We have to go back to our techniques that have saved us all these many years. So right now, we really don't have an outright program that really prioritizes that. There are piecemeals of it, yes, but we need to upscale that. So thereby, we need to have the help of the Behavioral Health Service, DBHS. Bless their hearts, those counselors, traditional counselors and practitioners that are working day to day, trying to help our relatives, utilizing our Dene methods and utilizing our Dene techniques, even down to smoke and sweat ceremonies. But a lot of times, if you break down their budgets are very, very small. Our budgets are usually set aside for maybe some PhD doctor, somebody from somewhere back east that has researched this and that. We pay more money to those kind of individuals than to really invest in our traditional counselors and practitioners. We have to correct that. We have to correct the resources that are lacking in these traditional techniques and methodologies. We need to really begin to invest in our Dene methodologies and techniques, because that is what is really saving us in so many ways. So they need to be part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that we don't have a treatment center on the Navajo Nation, relatives. Believe it or not, we do not have a treatment center. Rather, when a person needs substance abuse help and rehabilitation, they get sent out, maybe over to Phoenix or maybe out to California. I've even seen individuals that were sentenced or they were sent to Mescalero or even some of the other tribal programs that are there. If other tribal programs are existing and they are admitting Navajo patients over there, there's something wrong with that picture, relatives, because we don't even have a treatment center here on the Navajo Nation. That needs to change. We need to find the money and we need to build a program for treatment centers to be there, because of the fact that those treatment centers have to be Navajo methodologies, Navajo techniques. That's what we need to do. And so there are funding ideas. Yes, the Navajo Nation may not be the only one responsible for the payment. We have to find other sources of monies that are there to build it as well. But that doesn't mean that Navajo Nation is just going to neglect it and put it over here and say, beso oten. We cannot do that no more. Because the people that are living in the streets right now, the population is growing every day. So we need to start making an impact on a lot of these relatives of ours. Finally, we have homelessness. Believe it or not, relatives, we have homelessness. Go to any bigger community right now. The people that you see huddled up in the corners, people that you see wandering around out there, the people that you see on the side of bashes or hanging out over there, they're homeless. There are no homeless shelters right now on the Navajo Nation. It's especially concerning during the summer times when our relatives that are homeless have to sit in the sun and are baking in the sun. It's even more concerning during the winter months when they're cold. That's why you have a lot of deaths from exposure. That's why you have a lot of these issues and problems. Sometimes these individuals, they just want to go to a warm place, but they get chased out of stores. They get chased out of places. They're just trying to warm up and survive. So We have a homeless problem. It's not only people with alcohol or substance abuse issues. We have homeless all around. There's even a whole slew of students that are attending one big school district right now. There's about 135 homeless students right now that they have to find housing for from school year to school year. So we need to begin to really address and begin to look at the homeless problem and issues. Once again, we can't just talk about it. We got to find the money. We got to design the program. We got to put all of this together. We can't just talk about it no more, relatives. And so the Navajo Nation presidency campaign that we have embarked upon, this is what we're talking about, and this is what we're putting on the table to you, the voters, to tell you that we are just not talking about it. We're coming up with ideas. We're coming up with solutions. We are thinking outside of the box. That's what we're doing. Because if we don't, the crime rate is going to start going up. Like I said, I never ever thought of the day when I would hear or even defend a person that has been charged with prostitution. But it's here. So the sooner that we get on this, the sooner that we elect a president, the sooner that we elect council delegates who will address this, not just talk about it, the better off we're going to be, my relatives. And so you're going to have to get all of these things as a nation. We're going to have to get all of these things together, all these parties and agencies to come together as one, not just pockets of it. The courts can't be doing their own thing over here. The council delegates can't just be okay with the current criminal code. You got to upscale that criminal code. It behooves of me when I look at the criminal code, a lot of times when you have sentences that are very, very, very minor. You might as well just not have sentenced the person. These kind of things. You can't just have them do their own thing over here. You can't just have prosecution do their own thing, probation do their own thing. You can't just have behavioral health do their own thing. You can't just have other agencies such as the police department. Everybody is valuable. Everybody's trying to do something, but we need to bind them together. We have to make this as a team effort. It can't just be separate anymore. We have to do it as one complete team, addressing all of these issues, and everybody has their responsibilities, and that there would be cooperation, communication between the agencies in either to begin to address a lot of these problems. But one of the most important parts of this is that you need a Navajo Nation president who understands it, who has worked with these issues, and who is talking about solutions, giving you solutions. That's what the Navajo Nation needs at this point. We're done talking about it. We already know what the problem is. And so we need to begin to roll up our sleeves and begin to start working on these issues. And so that is what the Justin Jones for Navajo Nation president is doing and giving to you and presenting to you. And once more, I thank you for your kind attention.